So in this video, we're going to be talking about mixed numbers. So what is a mixed number? Well, a mixed number is anything that includes a whole integer, such as, let's say, 3, and a fraction, such as 1/2. This right here is a mixed number. What does this mean? Well, first of all, how do we even say this? This is referred to as 3 and 1/2, or 3 1/2. And what does that mean? Well, let's look at it in terms of pies or pizzas. The 3 means we have 3 entire whole pizzas. So 1, forgive the bad circle, 2, 3. That takes care of our 3. Now we have 1/2. What does that mean? Well, that means half of a pie or half of a pizza. And that would look something like this. 3 1/2 means 1, 2, 3 whole pizzas and a half. 3 1/2. Perfect. Now let's try to add two mixed numbers together. So let's take our first example, which was 3 1/2, and let's add to it 4 and 3, let's say, quarters. 4 3/4. So we can start this off in a bunch of different ways. I think the easiest way is to take the whole numbers and add them together first. So what is 3 plus 4? That is 7. So that takes care of the 3, that takes care of the 4. Now we're left with 1/2 and 3/4. So our new equation becomes 7 plus 1/2 plus 3/4. So how do we go about doing this fraction division? Well, again, there's a bunch of ways to do this, but the easiest way is to find a lowest common denominator. So how do we go about making these two denominators the same? Well, first we look at the biggest one, which in this case is 4, and now we want to turn this 2 into the 4. How do we do that? We multiply 2 by 2, and we get 4. So the denominator of this bottom of this fraction here becomes 4. And we didn't do anything to this 3/4, so this stays the same. But the 1 has to change. Because this fraction is one whole thing, it's together, the 1 and the 2 are coupled together by this line, we can't just turn this 2 into a 4 and leave the 1 as a 1. We have to do what we did to the 2 to the 1, if that makes sense. So, what did we do to the 2? We multiplied 2 by 2 to get 4. So we have to do the same to the top. 1 times 2 is 2. Now we have the same denominator and a new numerator. Now all we can do is treat these two fractions as one continuous fraction, let's say, because they have the same denominator. This whole thing becomes 2 plus 3, all divided by 4. And we can simply do the addition on the numerator and leave the denominator as is. So this whole thing is equal to 2 plus 3, which is 5, over 4. That is the answer to our fractional addition. So let's just add that back to our original equation, which was 7. And we have our answer as 7 and 5/4. I don't like how that 7 looks, actually. Let's change it. Perfect. 7 and 5/4. Okay, now we're going to try something else. In my opinion, examples are the best way to learn math. So let's try 7 and 3/4 plus 5 and 6/7, let's say, plus 11 and 3/5. Perfect. This is a little more complicated, but it's still the exact same process, and it should be easy. So, again, let's first deal with the whole numbers, 7, 5, and 11. 7 plus 11 plus 5. So let's see if I can do this in my head. 11 plus 7 is 18, plus 5 is 23. So that takes care of the whole numbers. Now we have, let's use a different color here, 3 over 2 plus 6 over 7 plus 3 over 5. That takes care of our fractions. So we have to find the lowest multiple of 2, 7, and 5. Well, just looking at that, the first number that shouts out to me is 70. Because it's even, that means it can be divided by 2. It's 70, it ends in a 0, so it can be divided by 5. And of course, it can be divided by 7. So let's do that. Let's use 70. 3 over 2, the denominator is going to become 70. And what did we do to the 2 to get 70? We multiplied it by half of 70, which is 35, right? So we have to multiply 35 by the top as well, the numerator. 35 times 3 is, let's see if we can do this, it is 105. Okay? That takes care of the first fraction. The second fraction, well, we multiplied the bottom by 10 to get 70, so we multiplied the top by 10 to get 6 times 10 is 60. Then we multiplied the bottom here by 14 to get 70. And so we do the same thing to the top. 3 times 14, which is 42. Cool. So now, again, we're left with 3 fractions with the same denominator. And we can go ahead and add the numerators together. So we have 105 plus 60 plus 42, which equals, so we have 165 plus 42, 200, 205. So the answer would be 207. Perfect. But it's not just 207, it is going to be 207 divided by 70. That takes care of our fraction, right? Perfect. So, if we scroll back up here, our whole numbers added together summed to be 23, and our fraction was 207 over 70. Let's just start a new page here. So our answer was 23 and 207 over 70. Perfect. Now, we can leave this answer as is, but it's not very proper because this right here, 207 over 70, is an improper fraction, meaning the numerator is greater than the denominator. And that sort of defeats the whole purpose of having a mixed number in the first place. So we're going to divide this out and get a new final answer. Our division is going to be 207 over 70. And I can tell right away that 70 is only going to go into 207 2 times. Because if it went into it 3 times, the answer would be 210. 7 times 3 is 21, right? So 70 times 3 is 210. So the most amount of times 70 can go into 207 evenly is twice. And 70 times 2 is 140. So to get our remainder, we're going to do 207 minus 140. And the answer to that, let's see if we can do this in our head, is going to be 60 plus 7. So 67. Perfect. That is going to be our new numerator. Let's scroll down here. 67. And we're going to keep our old denominator, which was 70. Since We divided 70 into 207 2 times. Our whole number, the integer, which originally was 23, needs to increase by 2. So the answer is going to be 25 and 67 over 70.